I'm not going to be just a talking head reading the slides. I have heard the actual Jim give this presentation a number of times, and so hopefully I can remember some of his stories and interject some of his commentary as well. Certainly we can do this a little interactive. If you have some other comments as we're going through it, certainly jump in. However, we'll do what we can with that. For those of you who weren't in the other session, my name is Mike Waldner. I am currently the Director of Secure South Dakota, or Secure SD. It's a program that we were allocated some funding from the state legislature in 2024, $7 million to improve the cybersecurity posture of every city, every county across South Dakota. And so that's my current project. My background is starting in state government, installed some of the first wide area network across South Dakota, built and worked in the K-12 data center. Prior to that, we did the Wire in the Schools, Connecting the Schools program, so a lot of K-12 history there with a lot of the work that I've done. Beyond that, then I got into the broadband world, did state broadband initiative, and then that morphed into FirstNet, doing public safety broadband network along with state radio within the Bureau of Information Telecommunications, and then the Connect South Dakota program came about. And as you may know, that was kicked off from Governor Noem. We had $5 million one year, $6 million another year to connect with high-speed fiber every single citizen, every single location in the state of South Dakota. The year after that, we were allocated $75 million to do this work. We were also allocated, well, let me back up. This thing, COVID, hit, if y'all remember that. So we were also then allocated $50 million of ARPA funds. So some of the COVID money, we were allocated that $50 million. I want to say it was March 23rd. April 1st, we opened up a grant round and we spent all 50 of it within 3 months. So Connect South Dakota, we connected 32,000 locations, 32,000 plus locations. We went through $89 million of state funds, and that parlayed into $302 million to connect all of those locations. So once we connected those locations, it was only natural that I would then migrate into the Secure South Dakota, in which case now we're trying to secure all of those connections, right? And so it was kind of a nice progression for myself. With the Secure South Dakota, Jim Edman and CISA is one of our partners, one of our huge partners. He's also on our advisory council. I've known Jim, I said in my other presentation, in I'll date myself, you see the gray, 1992, November, he hired me on the spot, and we've been friends ever since. And so you can do the math, what is that, 40 years, something like that, 30, 40 years. Incredible gentleman, and I hope I can do him justice for what we're covering here. So I think we're all aware of CISA. They're part of Department of Homeland Security. They're the cybersecurity agency for Homeland Security. You can see what they end up doing. Some of their core capabilities or core areas, one of the biggest things is that partnership development. CISA has all of this data and this information. They get information constantly from all of the other three-letter agencies, the NSA, the FBI, all of these other federal agencies. They get this information. They need to partner with Secure SD, industry, other universities, across the nation, so that we can disseminate that information and get that information to the good guys so they can fix stuff, so they can mitigate all of the risks that are out there. You can see everything else that they do. One of the other things, risk assessment and analysis. That's one of the things they also do for us on the Secure SD program. And actually, there's a slide later that will talk about that. Cybersecurity, infrastructure, emergency communications, risk management. There's their core areas. The biggest thing is physical and cyber infrastructure. We'll talk specifically about the cyber part of it, but within South Dakota, they also have the physical security individuals as well as part of CISA, and they do a great job. One of the main individuals used to be the colonel of the Highway Patrol, and just an incredible person, completely understands physical security. And he's a big guy. Okay, he's a little taller than me, but who isn't, right? He's about 6'4", something like that. And let me tell you, if he walks up to a door and puts a shoulder into it, you better have a good lock, because otherwise he's getting in. Specifically, some of the things that they work on. Again, lots of presentations that Jim does. He also helps Secure SD with a lot of the training. When we're securing that human firewall, they help us with that. We just put on a incident response plan workshop in Rapid City, and that's where we actually brought in a group of people. We had maybe, 30 plus people, counties, cities, industry. And we sat down, we said, okay, and if you want to see blank stares in presentations, get in front of county auditors and finance officers and elected officials and just say, okay, you walk into your office and all you see on your screen, it just says ransomware. What do? Who's the first person you call? What's the first thing you do? And the best answer was, the little old lady, cry. I said, that's a great response. I said, okay, what's next, right? So he helps us with those workshops, and so that they don't have that blank stare. If something happens, here's what you do. First person I'm going to call is here, here, and here. Where's the plug? If I have to unplug the network in my city in my courthouse, where's that ISP come into that building? Where do I pull that? Do you, as an auditor or a finance officer, do you know where that cord is at? Oh my God, I wouldn't touch that stuff. No, you need to know, because you know what? Your IT vendor or your IT support people, they're on vacation, right? It only happens when they're gone. So we talk about all of those things. Industry information. So infrastructure security, school safety. Some of this is from the physical perspective. And I like whether it's man-made or natural causes, obviously. Here in South Dakota, a couple of individuals that are in peer, your advisor. The protective security advisor is in Rapid City, and then the supervisor is also out of Rapid City. So let's take a look at this. Here are the readiness culture. How many of you, it's surprising to me when we ask counties, specifically counties, or even cities, what's your most valuable asset? You know, of course, yeah, your people and all of that. But why, especially, you know, your smaller towns, your little cities that have population 500 or less. You have that city that literally they have 3 computers, and they all share the same password, of course, because, you know, you never know which one you want to use, and why would you complicate it? What why do you think bad actors want to get to those 3 computers? And this is where we start talking with them, and we start narrowing in on your data. Are you ready for cyber incidents? What else are you doing to improve cybersecurity? Are you doing annual training? Part of our Secure SD is we're tracking. Are you doing annual training? Are you training your employees? Have you been to an IRP workshop? Have you done all these things? Nope, 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 nope. Okay, we need to fix that. We need to improve that. Accepted norms and online practices of the users. How many of you have, not you in this room, but questions such as, you have that one elected official who has a Hotmail account and refuses to have anything else, but yet wants all of the city finances sent to his Hotmail account? Or worse yet, how about the sheriff who's working on a murder case and is sending confidential case-managed evidence to somebody in DCI, somebody in the Attorney General's office, and he's using a Gmail account? Attorney General doesn't want to send anything back to a Gmail account. When I first saw this, I was absolutely floored. But it makes some sense. Back in 1983, the leader of China said, you know what? We don't need education. We don't need to learn anything. Let's go steal it. Can you imagine the head of a country the size of China saying, intellectual property, go find it from all of these foreigners? Strategic importance to our country. 83, what was that? 40 years ago? So they've been doing this for 40 years. And if you don't believe me, just Google Nortel. They were a Canadian company back when, before Cisco. They were bigger than Cisco, way bigger. They were as big as GE, huge company. Some individuals, and I can talk about this because it was in the news. I can show you the news articles. They were inside of Nortel's network for approximately, I think it was like 10 years. And this is back in 83, 84, 85. Well, it would have been about in the late 80s, 90s. And it was amazing because now Nortel was the leader in routers, switches, and everything for the internet. 6 months later, these companies out of China had the same looking box and, same looking components inside. Nortel went bankrupt. Microsoft, Google, IBM, and another consortium bought out all of their patents to help them pay off their debts. Vulnerabilities, edge devices, anything that is exposed to the internet. We're talking your firewalls. We're talking, I think Jim told me something like the Exchange servers, there's like, gosh, he said don't quote him, so don't quote me not quoting him. Something like 28,000 Exchange servers are just tied right into the internet. No firewall or anything in front of them. That's incredible. It's 2025, right? Do they not watch the news? So you can see that 95% of these exposures, directly connected. One of the other things I'll mention on this slide as well is, remember I mentioned the partnerships with CISA? When a zero-day exploit comes out, immediately they send out alerts to their partners and say, hey, listen, this make, model, brand of firewall has a vulnerability. You need to go patch it. You need to fix this. To be able to get in front of some of the bad actors is absolutely incredible. And that's one of the things that CISA is really good at doing. Communications, commercial, government, information technologies. Take a look at that. That's just May through August of 2025. I got a couple slides coming up here. Microsoft Exchange Server. One of the coolest things that happened to me at the K-12 data center, we had a school that was, shall I say, reluctant to come on board to the state K-12 email system. You know, because Janklo's going to read all my emails. All right, whatever. We'll talk to you later. Well, later came rather quickly. About 2 weeks after he made that comment, his Exchange server was hacked. And K-12 Data Center, we also were allocated the authoritative DNS server for k12.sd.us. So nobody else in the world, we were the only ones who could change anything with it. Well, he was trying to change something with it to try to fix his Exchange server. Wasn't working. I called the school, talked to the secretary, and told her who I was. Of course, she didn't believe me. Hangs up. Like, okay, let's take another run at this. Wait a little longer. Call again. I said, okay. I said, ma'am, I said, if you don't get me connected with this person, your whole school is going to have a really bad day. And I asked her, I said, let me guess, you don't have email, do you? Well, no, it's been down since this morning. How did you know? I said, well, I happen to know this. So connect me with your tech coordinator. Tech coordinator gets on, and he's like, I don't have time to talk to you. I'm busy doing this, fixing, and doing this. I told him, I said, slow down. I said, hold on. And he goes, okay, what? I said, do this, this, and this. And because we knew exactly what had happened, because we had seen it before, right? So trust me, it wasn't anything real magic of Mike. It was been there, done that, we've been there. And so I toned him down, and I said, all right, Tony, talk about a crucial conversation here with this individual. And I said, okay, now you've done that. I said, okay, as you know, we're the domain authority for K12SD. I said, I'll set up this in our DNS records, and this will work for you. It'll get you by till tomorrow. I said, but you should really consider coming on to the state system. We got a team of people that have eyes on this all the time. And we're going through this. At the end of the conversation, he goes, wait, what was your name again? And from then on, it was like, at first he could care less who I was. But at the end of it, it's like, wait, who are you? And we became pretty good friends after that and just continued on. But Exchange server, obviously, that's where the gold is, right? How many of you use email? How many of you used it 20 times already this morning, right? Critical. All right, so I looked at this slide and I go to Jim. I said, what in the heck am I going to do with that slide? And he laughed. He goes, yeah, it's pretty rough. And this next one is about just as bad. So we're going to break this down a little bit. And I'm going to narrow this down into just two things. Notice the number 6. 1 through 5-ish, 1 through 4. That's your common exploit. That's pretty straightforward. You got a bad actor, and they make it through your edge devices, and they have administrator credentials, and now they own your network. They can do anything they want with it. Going into that, they extract the NTDS DIT file. That's your Active Directory gold mine. Once they have that, now they got all your accounts, they got all your Active Directory information. The point of this slide is, do you think maybe you should be monitoring that file? When is it backed up? When is it copied? Who copied it? Why did they copy it? Why did it just get copied outside of our backup schedule? And who did it? What credentials? Map and discover network. When they're in your network, that's all they're doing. They're just searching, looking. Okay, there's a printer there I can exploit. Okay. Strategic network pre-positioning. The number one thing that China does, and I'll pick on our friends in the water, like rural water systems, city water systems. At one point, I won't tell you the percentage because it'll scare all of us. China pre-positions themselves into these networks. There's a water district in Littleton, Massachusetts. All of a sudden, CISA gets a phone call from the FBI. Hey, got some weird stuff going on in this water system up in Massachusetts. You guys want to take a look at it? They start investigating it. The People's Republic of China, nation-state actor, which means it would be like me as a state employee. Every day I go to work as a state employee hired and paid by the state of South Dakota to go and try and infiltrate Chinese water district systems. Imagine that. That's what we have going on here. For 300 days, the People's Republic of China were inside Littleton, Massachusetts water system. For 300 days, they were on their network. Why was it 300 days? That's all the logs they had. How many of you would allow a burglar in your house for 300 days? And just let them hang out. Maybe you cook them breakfast, invite them to the birthday party.
They're called kids.
Oh yeah, they're called kids. Dang. For 300 days, all they did was sit and monitor the entire network. They turned valves on, valves off, so they knew they could do it. They could change the chemicals that are being put into the water. Every person that Littleton served with water could have been killed like that, just by changing the chemicals that go into that water. Now, the purpose of this, and this is not Mike Waldner's political statement by any means. There's actually a CISA article that talks about this. Why do you think they didn't do anything bad? They're in there for 300 days. I told you, they turned valves on and off. They did, and this is not the only one. It's numerous water plants. Yes? Okay, it's more strategic. What? Timing. What do you think if and when China invades Taiwan? Taiwan is basically American country-ish. What will happen at that point, and this is according to the article, what will happen at that point is, at that time, China will then start shutting off the water in every rural area of the United States of America. I'm not talking just South Dakota. Imagine every single state having a water issue. At that point, what happens? What happens with our military? I think a bunch of the cyber guard guys are going to be here today. So maybe go ahead and ask, well, these guys are cyber guys, but if the water gets shut off in your town, the National Guard shows up. National Guard shows up to help local because that's what they do. Now they can't be deployed to go fight a war overseas. According to that article, that's kind of that whole purpose. It's a strategic move. It's timing when they're all pre-positioning themselves. And I was picking on water, but you can see it's communications, it's electric. This gets into a little more of the details of it, which, by the way, Eric, do you pass these slides out, or if, okay.
Yep, they'll all be available.
Okay, awesome. So definitely take a deeper dive into that as well. We're just looking at 1 year, August to August. Now, like all charts, it's a little difficult to look. However, what this is telling you is the blue is every ransomware attack that the federal government knew about or was told about. The orangish looking color is what CISA knows is on the dark web. So you look in March, 361 companies, entities, agencies, whatevers said, hey, we had ransomware, just letting you know. There's federal law. If you're, I think it's 250 employees, you have to disclose it. Is it five?
Last I heard was
5 employees?
500.
500 employees?
You have to publish it.
Then you have to publish it. Okay.
I think it was OCR, I think, for us.
So 973 incidents actually happened. People aren't talking about it. Oh, did they just pay the ransom? Let me ask this question. If you get ransomware, should you pay the ransom? The number one question that the two CISA guys always would get at every training. How do I negotiate with a ransomware person? Can I call you? Can you talk to him? Can you negotiate with them? And what do you think their answer is? Yeah. Allegedly. You hope not. They follow the lines with the FBI. They don't negotiate with terrorists. They don't negotiate with ransomware people. Therefore, you better hope your backup is good. Brown County, again, I can speak about this. It's in the papers. They were out of commission, I believe he said like 3 weeks that they were, I mean, imagine a county that can't do birth certificates, driver's license, I don't know, what else does a county do? They do stuff. Marriage licenses?
They can't pay their employees.
Oh, snap. The elevator in the building. Badges, security. Now our security's all broke too. Because we have these fancy little key card things, right? At DSU, I'm fortunate enough the building that I'm in is also a bunker. Does a bunch of cybersecurity work for the NSA, and I'm on the less secure side. But still, and then now they've done the conceal carry law that went through, so now nobody can come through even my part of the building because of that. We don't do any tours anymore individually. If you want to see some cool stuff, I can walk you through individually.